When he was detected to have no spiritual root, he felt unwilling to accept it. So, he once took a risk and walked around the vicinity of Mount Taishan out of resentment. Not long after returning, he painted the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity. So, to put it this way, this painting is his way of seeking solace and also a sense of helplessness. So he pondered for a moment and chuckled lightly. 5 years ago, I passed by Mount Taishan. That's why I had the inspiration for the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity. So that's how it is. Wishwang Lu was stunned for a moment. A hint of disappointment flickered in his eyes. If only I had met Senior Yi earlier, that would have been great. At this moment, Changxian the Immortal and Changhe Lu also opened their eyes successively. Both old faces were filled with expressions of joy. But when they saw Wishwang Lu and Bingxin Yan also drinking tea, they couldn't help but exchange a glance. It was indeed Senior Yi. Whether towards the 2 old men or the 2 young men, he treated them all equally. This is enlightenment tea. It was casually given to the 2 juniors. For them, this is definitely a huge stroke of luck and good fortune. How is the tea that I made for you two? Chom Chinyi asked with a smile as refreshing as a spring breeze, suddenly speaking up. What does Senior Yi mean by that? Could it be a test of our cultivation aptitude? Chan Xian the Immortal quickly realized this. He paused for a moment, carefully choosing his words before speaking solemnly. The tea was sweet and lingering, almost like soaking in a warm spring, making one feel relaxed and joyful. It seemed as if his state of mind had undergone a subtle transformation, truly extraordinary. Oh my goodness! Isn't it just drinking a cup of tea? To have so many feelings from just a cup of tea. Could it be some kind of flattery going on here? Chan Qingyi glanced at Chan Xian the Immortal with a serious expression, then awkwardly nodded with a smile. But when he looked at Changhe Lu, the latter's face changed slightly, appearing somewhat awkward. Reporting to Mr. Yi, this is absolutely the best tea I have ever had in my life, he said. Changhe Lu is very attentive to the art of speech. He first flattered a bit, then solemnly said, This tea not only refreshes the mind and clarifies the thoughts, but also purifies the soul as if undergoing a baptism. It's simply miraculous. Upon hearing this, Chan Qingyi couldn't help but glance at Changhe Lu a few more times. He discreetly looked at Chan Xian the Immortal. These 2 old guys wouldn't be playing tricks on him, would they? Yes, it must be the case. To be played around by these 2 old guys. Today, he must find a way to gain back his reputation. At this moment, Changhe Lu took out a quaint brocade box from his pocket. Mr. Yi, a small gift. I hope you will accept it. Senior Lu, what do you mean by this? Chan Qingyi was about to invite these 2 old guys to play chess, and planned to thoroughly defeat them on the chessboard. But seeing their expressions, it seemed like they were preparing to give gifts instead. However, upon seeing the ancient and exquisite brocade box, much of the frustration in his heart dissipated. Perhaps the other party was simply speaking the truth earlier. But what kind of gift would they give in return? After all, Bingxin Yan had been freeloading off him for several days. At that moment, Chan Qingyi's heart was filled with curiosity. In this brocade box is a mysterious ice pearl. Just a small token of sincerity. I hope Mr. Yi won't refuse it. Changhe Lu replied with a smile. Mysterious ice pearl. Chan Qingyi hesitated for a moment. Then, he took the brocade box and slowly opened it. A wave of icy essence hit his face. Shortly after, he saw a snow-white pearl surrounded by a chilling aura. A bead the size of a baby's fist came into view. Chan Xian the Immortal and Wishwang Lu beside him both had their pupils contract upon seeing this scene. Astonishment was written all over their faces. As the name suggests, mysterious ice is a treasure that comes from extremely cold places formed over tens of thousands of years. As the saying goes, extreme things must reverse. Although mysterious ice has extremely cold properties, it is a rare healing treasure in the world. Especially for cultivators with an ice attribute spiritual root, this is equivalent to a heaven-defying good fortune and fortuitous encounter. Of course, the sacred land of metaphysics also has such treasures. However, What Chan Xian the Immortal and Wushuang Lu did not expect was that the mysterious ice given to Chan Qingyi by Chenghe Lu was actually a bead. You should know that even mysterious ice the size of a fingernail is considered priceless. So, what kind of existence would a mysterious ice pearl the size of a fist be? Now it seems that the heritage of the ancient Great Yin country may not be much inferior to the sacred land of metaphysics. It might even surpass it in some aspects. Looking at this pearl in front of him, Chan Xian the Immortal couldn't help but sigh inwardly. At the same time, Chan Qingyi curiously took out the mysterious ice pearl from the brocade box and held it in his hand. Oh my, it's so refreshingly cold. This pearl emits a chill all over. If it were placed in the summer, it could be used to chill some fruits or something. The four people beside him were surprised to see him holding the mysterious ice pearl in his hand, but he still maintained a calm demeanor. They all showed expressions of astonishment. The mysterious ice pearl comes from an extremely cold place, and naturally belongs to the category of extremely and cold treasures. An ordinary mortal would probably turn into a frozen corpse in an instant with just one touch of the mysterious ice pearl. Even someone like Chan Xian the Immortal, who is a strong cultivator with accomplishments reflecting the laws of nature, wouldn't dare to keep it in their palm for too long. You should know that once the extremely and cold aura contained in the mysterious ice pearl enters the human body, it would be nothing short of a disaster for cultivators without an ice attribute spiritual root. Even strong cultivators at the divine transcendence stage would absolutely not dare to underestimate it. At that moment, everyone looked at Chan Qingyi with admiration in their eyes. Senior Yi is indeed a transcendent being with unfathomable accomplishments reflecting the laws of nature in his cultivation level. Seeing his great interest in the mysterious ice pearl, Chenghe Lu glanced at Bingxin Yin and chuckled softly. Senior Yi, my daughter has been causing you trouble these days. Today, I will take her away from here. Are you leaving now? Chan Qingyi raised his head abruptly, showing reluctance. Although he had wanted Bingxin Yin to leave a long time ago, now that her family had come to pick her up and even gave him such a useful ice pearl, he still had to show a somewhat regretful appearance. Ah, Miss Yin, I didn't expect us to part ways so soon. Seeing this scene, not only did Bingxin Yin, who originally didn't want to leave, suddenly feel stunned. Even Chan Xian the Immortal and Wushuang Lu couldn't help but look stunned. What exactly is special about this ninth princess that she can earn such appreciation from Senior Yi? Mr. Yi, I'm not leaving. Bingxin Yin hesitated for a moment, then turned to look at Chenghe Lu and said, Elder Lu, you go back and tell my parents. Let them not worry. I will stay here with Mr. Yi for a while. I will inform them separately when I want to go back. Upon hearing this, Chan Qingyi couldn't help but be stunned. A complex expression immediately appeared on his face. He never expected that by merely being polite to Chenghe Lu, this woman would take it seriously. Your world. Don't you pay any attention to the differences between men and women at all? And aren't you afraid that on a dark and stormy night, he might not be able to control his loneliness and accidentally get into some trouble? Hearing Bingxin Yin say this, and looking very serious, Chenghe Lu suddenly seemed a bit hesitant. Chan Qingyi couldn't help but blink at the sight. Are the hearts of you elders so big? At this moment, he was filled with regret. If he could choose again, he would never be so affected. So he hesitated for a moment, forced a smile, and looked at Bingxin Yin, saying, Miss Yin, as the saying goes, filial piety is the most important in all things. If you truly enjoy staying with me, first go back and spend some time with your parents. Come back in a while. Hearing this, Chan Xian the Immortal couldn't help but show a hint of complex expression on his face. He then nodded in agreement. At my age, my parents have long turned into a pile of yellow soil. You all are still young. Indeed, you should cherish this family bond. Chenghe Lu also nodded in agreement. That's right. Life is short, a mere 100 years. We should cherish all the people and things in front of us. At this moment, Chan Qingyi sighed slightly as he began reciting a poem. Daylilies bloom beside the hall steps, while the wanderer roams the vast expanse. A tender mother leans against the door, yet the daylilies blossom eludes her glance. Being well-versed in Tang poetry and song lyrics, his thoughts shifted, casually reciting this poem. The Wanderer's Poem. Upon hearing this, Changxian the Immortal and the other three people were stunned, as if a vivid image had instantly appeared in their minds. The moss covered the steps. Traveling children walked all over the world. An old mother with gray hair leaned against the door, gazing steadily into the distance, yet the returning children were nowhere to be seen. For people's eyes turned red inadvertently. Their faces were filled with complex emotions, especially Changxian the Immortal and Changhua Lu, who have cultivated for thousands of years. Their dull hearts are as steady as a rock, but this poem unintentionally stirred up memories long buried in the depths of their hearts. They were once sons as well. They also had a white-haired old mother. But now, over the span of 1,000 years, this poem evoked memories that made them empathize deeply. It brought forth a sense of helplessness and longing for their old mother. Senior Yi is indeed the supreme being of accomplishments reflect the laws of nature. His words turn into poetry effortlessly, with such profound implications. It is feared that those old folks in Zhongzhou who claim to be descendants of the literary sage can only look on and sigh in admiration. Seeing the sorrowful expressions on the faces of the two elderly men, Chan Qingyi couldn't help but feel a bit puzzled. Could it be that the 5-character poem he casually uttered happened to touch their sore spots? Yes. Soon, Changhua Lu reigned in his mind and spirit. After some internal struggle, he stood up resolutely and spoke. Mr. Yi, we have troubled you today. I will now take Miss away from here. Are you really leaving? Bing Xinyan looked reluctant to part. However, after hearing Chan Xinye's 5-character poem, she decided to go back first. Mr. Yi, I will accompany Elder Lu home first. I will come back to see you in a while. Seeing that Bing Xinyan had made up her mind, Chan Qingyi felt a hint of complexity in his heart. If possible, he really wanted to go out to the outside world. It has been 5 years since coming to this world. His largest activity range is Pond Town. The farthest place he has visited is at the foot of Mount Taishan. He couldn't possibly stay and grow old in this small place the size of a palm for his whole life. I'll go and see them off. Chan Qingyi nodded helplessly. Then he looked at Changxian the Immortal and Wushuang Lu. If you two are not in a hurry, please wait here for a moment. Changxian the Immortal and Wushuang Lu were stunned for a moment. They nodded gently. They never expected that Senior Yi would be so elegant and easygoing, willingly seeing off 2 juniors despite having ascended to the supreme stage. After Chan Qingyi and the other 2 left, the bored Changxian the Immortal approached the table. Finally, he saw the new version of the old painting, the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity. In an instant, his mind and spirit were drawn into the illusion. The surroundings changed dramatically, with towering mountains, ancient forests, and a realm reminiscent of the world of immortals. It was a scene that captivated the heart and soul. Deep within the cloud-shrouded mountains, ancient temples could be vaguely seen. It was the location of the main peak, the palace of the Great Profound. However, what truly amazed Changxian the Immortal was the vast expanse of colorful auspicious clouds that shrouded above Palace of the Great Profound and many other ancient temples. They emitted a majestic essence that was awe-inspiring. Previously, with the perspective of Wushuang Lu and Bing Xinyan, it was impossible to discern the significance of these colorful auspicious clouds. However, with the vision of Changxian the Immortal, a saint master in the sacred land of metaphysics, how could one not understand? This clearly is an omen of fortune bestowed from above. Heavens! Senior Yi is like a painter using the heavens and earth as canvas, employing myriad Tao principles as brushstrokes, bestowing countless fortunes upon the sacred land of metaphysics through extraordinary means. No wonder so many geniuses in cultivation have been recruited recently. Moreover, the first chair of Sword Spirit Peak has advanced ahead of schedule, stepping into the divine transcendence stage hundreds of years earlier. If nothing unexpected happens, the sacred land of metaphysics will surely welcome even more surprises. There is even hope that oneself in this lifetime may rise to the celestial realm. Saint Master, what's wrong with you? Wushuanglu saw Chan Xian the immortal looking strange, couldn't help but furrow her delicate eyebrows in slight concern. Hearing this, Chan Xian the immortal suddenly realized. He pulled out the mind and spirit from the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity. He couldn't help but gasp in cold air first. Then he showed great joy on his face, and said word by word to Wushuanglu. Confirmed. Mr. Yi is indeed the esteemed Grandmaster. Seeing the unprecedented seriousness on Saint Master's face, and so sure, Wushuanglu couldn't help but look stunned. Really? Are you sure Senior Yi is the one, the esteemed Grandmaster? No mistake. It must be him. Chan Xian the immortal spoke with a firm gaze. Wushuang, if I'm not mistaken, your mind and spirit were also drawn into the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity just now, right? Wushuanglu nodded uncontrollably. Have you seen the colorful auspicious clouds in the depths of Mount Taishian? Replying to Saint Master, Wushuang saw it. Does that colorful auspicious cloud have any special meaning? You are still young, so your perspective is naturally a bit shallow. That colorful auspicious cloud is a great fortuitous encounter bestowed by Senior Yi upon our sacred land of metaphysics. Saint Master, Wushuang still doesn't understand. It's better not to understand. Because that colorful auspicious cloud is a gift from Senior Yi to our sacred land of metaphysics. Fortune is a very mysterious existence. It's something I have only seen once in my life. Senior Yi uses the heavens and the earth as the canvas, and the myriad Tao principles as the ink brush, then bestows us with incomparable divine abilities. The sacred land of metaphysics is endowed with countless fortunes of such grandeur. I'm afraid that throughout history, no one could achieve this. And this painting is named The Diagram of Supreme Profoundness and Eternal Clarity. All signs indicate that Senior Yi is our sacred land of metaphysics. He is the revered Grandmaster who has been worshipped for countless years. At this point, Chan Xian the immortal appears radiant, his cheeks full of excitement. With the support of such an esteemed Grandmaster working behind the scenes, the sacred land of metaphysics will have no trouble soaring. In this way, the sacred land of metaphysics will usher in an unprecedented golden age and become the foremost holy land of cultivation in the entire Zhongzhou continent. Although Wushuanglu found it a bit unclear, Chan Xian the immortal holds a prestigious status and possesses an unfathomable cultivation level as a Saint Master. As a junior, she naturally dare not harbor suspicions. Of course, the most important reason is that Senior Yi appears gentle and amiable, despite his profound and immeasurable cultivation level. If he truly is connected to their own esteemed Grandmaster, she would naturally be pleased. But the next moment, as if she had figured something out, her expression changed slightly, and she asked seriously, Saint Master, I have a question. Do you think Senior Yi could truly be a being who has transcended to the celestial heights? Upon hearing this, Chan Xian the immortal nodded without hesitation. It's not a possibility, but a certainty. The ability to casually bestow countless fortunes upon our sacred land of metaphysics is too extraordinary. And once the backlash occurs, it will surely bring about numerous calamities. Perhaps only a being of that level could disregard such consequences. Therefore, Senior Yi can only be a supreme being of that caliber. Wushuanglu nodded slightly. However, Saint Master, I have heard before that some transcendent beings, in order to achieve their own goals, will mercilessly use sentient beings as pawns. Do you think Senior Yi might also be like that? Wushuang, I have thought about this question a long time ago. And it's great that you can think this far. Chan Xian the immortal nodded with relief, then smiled and said, But now it has been confirmed that Senior Yi is indeed our esteemed Grandmaster of the sacred land of metaphysics. Even if he truly becomes a pawn of Grandmaster Yi, it would definitely be beneficial to us without any harm. On the contrary, if the esteemed Grandmaster is really confronting a transcendent being, but not using our sacred land of metaphysics as a pawn, it's my fault instead. Speaking of this, Chan Xian the immortal couldn't help but sigh softly. Wushuang, remember this. We and Yi the esteemed Grandmaster are always a unity. We rise and fall together. So even if used as a pawn, there should be no complaints. Saint Master. Wishwang noted it down. Wishwang Lu smiled gently, nodding deeply in agreement. On the other side, Chang Qingyi personally escorted Bingxin Yin and her group to the outskirts of Pond Town. When he saw the tall and imposing guards assembled outside, he really felt the urge to leave Pond Town. With such a group of imposing guards protecting them, even if they encountered any danger, it could be easily resolved. He really wanted to go out into the world, to explore and see. Especially hearing about the great Yin Kingdom and the celestial capital from Bingxin Yin filled him with longing. Mr. Yi personally bid farewell, leaving me feeling both honored and nervous. Before departing, Chang Lu once again bowed deeply, his words filled with respect. Chang Qingyi, on the other hand, wore a peaceful smile. Senior Lu's words were solemn. If you have time in the future, you are welcome to visit me again for a chat at my humble abode. Okay. Chang Lu was momentarily stunned. A faint smile of embarrassment appeared on his face. Thank you, Mr. Yi, for your kindness. Chang Lu will definitely come visit again. Chang Qingyi nodded slightly, watching the group walk away slowly. Then he withdrew his gaze and glanced at the shadow monarch squatting beside him. He couldn't help but sigh heavily. Unexpectedly, after a year, you are still so useless. With that, he turned and left. Shadow Monarch was crouching on the ground, turned his head to look at the slim figure of Chang Qingyi. His eyes were filled with determination. Master, I, Shadow Monarch, swear that I will work hard to cultivate. I will never disappoint your expectations. After a moment, when Chang Qingyi returned to the courtyard, Chang Xian the Immortal and Wishwang Lu, who were standing at the table, finally came back to their senses. They quickly said, Mr. Yi, you're back. At this moment, Chang Qingyi felt a little depressed. So he asked the two of them, Senior Yi, Miss Lu, do you two drink alcohol? Wishwang Lu looked stunned for a moment, and then shyly shook her head. Chang Xian the Immortal's eyes lit up with a glimmer. With a thought, he took out a jug of fine wine from his sleeve and said with a smile, Mr. Yi, this wine is called Snow Spirit Brew. True to its name, it is brewed from the rare snow spirit flower found only in the 10,000-year snow mountain. It's ice cold on the palate and perfect for this season. Oh, really? Chang Qingyi lightly exclaimed, a hint of joy flashing in his eyes. He had thought that this old guy would be very stingy, but he didn't expect him to take out such good wine. I must have a few more drinks today. Senior He and Miss Lu, please wait a moment. I'll go prepare some dishes to go with the wine. I'll be right back. With that, he turned and headed towards the kitchen. Master, is this the 1,000-year-old snow spirit brew that Master often mentions? When Chang Qingyi went to the kitchen, Wishwang Lu looked at the wine jug in front of him, his face revealing a hint of doubt. Yes. This wine is indeed the snow spirit brew that Yuan Jian disciple brother has been longing for. Chang Xian the Immortal glanced at Wishwang Lu and chuckled. However, ordinary people cannot handle this snow spirit brew. Even with my current level of cultivation, I can only have up to 3 cups at most. Having more than 1 cup might even make me drunk. Is it really that powerful? Hearing this, Wishwang Lu's eyes lit up. Saint Master, may I have a taste later? Chang Xian the Immortal nodded with a smile. Although this wine is good, do not indulge too much. After about half an incense stick's time, Chang Qingyi walked over with 2 plates of pork. One plate was spicy pig liver, and the other plate was smoked wild boar slices. Of course, all of these came from the wild game that suddenly appeared in the grocery store that day. Senior He and Miss Lu, please try my specially made appetizers. He greeted them warmly with a smile on his face. However, when Chang Xian the Immortal sensed the faint special essence emanating from the pork, his pupils contracted involuntarily, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Whether it is the essence on the pig liver or the slices of meat. Clearly it is a trace of demonic essence. And this demonic essence is so pure. Definitely from a top-tier powerful monster. That is equivalent to the level of the golden elixir stage. And at this level of powerful monster, the flesh and blood on their body is comparable to a spiritual herb elixir. Perhaps only Senior Yi has the ability to use the things from a top-tier powerful monster for appetizers. While Chanxian the Immortal was in awe, hesitating to pick up his chopsticks, Wushuanglu beside him gently moved her nostrils and smiled, saying, "Senior Yi, I didn't expect your culinary skills to be so good as well." Chanxin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Don't just stand there. Go ahead and give it a taste." Wushuanglu nodded with a smile and said casually, "No need to be too polite." She picked up a piece of pig liver with her chopsticks and gently put it into her mouth. As a piece of pig liver went down, it was quickly discovered something strange. It took a moment for her to feel the blood surging continuously inside her body. The essence of spirit in her 8 extraordinary meridians and internal organs started to operate uncontrollably. Her face instantly turned red, and sweat poured down her forehead like she had taken some kind of medicine. "Miss Lu, are you okay?" Chanxin Yi looked indifferent. "This wild pepper here is unusually spicy." Just like when he first tried it, he had the same expression. However, with frequent consumption, he finds the spiciness of the wild pepper has faded quite a bit. So, when he made this dish just now, he deliberately added more. Someone like Wushuanglu, who is dedicated to cultivation, surprisingly is afraid of spicy food. Gudong. Wushuanglu nodded at Chanxin Yi. Due to the strong surging of qi, blood, and essence of spirit in her body, she directly picked up the wine glass on the table and drank it all in one go. As a result, she instantly felt dizzy from the alcohol. She only felt her head heavy and muddled, and soon fell asleep with her head resting on the table. Upon hearing this, Chanxian the Immortal suddenly came to his senses. Sensing Wushuanglu's essence, he shook his head with a wry smile. Whether it was this wine dish or snow spirit brew, they are not something that a mere golden elixir stage cultivator like you can handle. However, this is also a part of your fortuitous encounter and good fortune. Chanxin Yi smiled at Chanxian the Immortal and said, "It seems that Miss Lu really can't hold her liquor. As the saying goes, deep emotions. Bottoms up. Come on, Senior Yi, let's drink." As he spoke, he raised his glass and finished it in one go. Chanxian the Immortal nodded with a smile, then also raised his head and drank it down. "Senior Yi, this is really good wine." Chanxin Yi couldn't help but smack his lips. Not to mention, this wine is refreshing on the palate. After it goes down the throat, it makes the whole body feel comfortable. However, this should be a specially brewed health wine. The alcohol content is mild. He felt that he could finish the whole pot of wine himself. He probably didn't feel any tipsiness at all. At this moment, Chanxian the Immortal chuckled and said, "Mr. Yi, you may not know this. The Snow Spirit wine has a strong kick to it. Even with my capacity, I can only handle up to 3 cups. Uh-huh. It has a strong kick. How come I don't feel a thing?" Chanxin Yi smiled and did not say much. He refilled Chanxian the Immortal's cup. "As the saying goes, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Since you are here today, feel free to speak up if you have any matters to discuss." Chanxian, he took out his personally preserved health-preserving wine. At least it could be considered a gift for their meeting. Chanxin Yi had always been straightforward and not one to beat around the bush, so he decided to openly and directly address the matter. Chanxian the Immortal was a bit stunned. After a moment of hesitation, he said cautiously, "Mr. Yi, since you put it that way, I won't beat around the bush anymore. To be honest, I really admire your painting the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity. So he." Upon hearing this, Chanxin Yi raised his glass and drank it all. "Ha ha ha. Senior He indeed has a good eye. The diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity is the work I am most proud of recently. If you like it, then consider it a gift from me to you." As soon as these words were spoken, Chanxian the Immortal's face immediately changed color, and his mind and spirit were greatly shaken. He quickly got up respectfully and said, "Thank you, Mr. Yi, for giving me this painting." He never expected that Senior Yi would be so generous, casually gifting him the painting filled with many fortunes, the diagram of supreme profoundness and eternal clarity. With that, he became even more convinced that the young man in front of him was indeed the esteemed grandmaster of the sacred land of metaphysics. And he was afraid that he had already seen through his own identity. Otherwise, if it were anyone else, they would never do such a thing. At this point, Chan Xian the Immortal felt even more admiration and respect towards Senior Yi. At this moment, Chan Qingyi poured himself another glass of wine, raised it with a smile, and said, "Come, Senior Yi. After this glass, there's another one." Chan Xian the Immortal did not dare to decline and directly raised his glass, finishing it in one gulp. However, after drinking the third glass, he showed no further intention of drinking. Chan Qingyi also does not have the habit of urging others to drink. Although he thought that Chan Xian the Immortal's words were a bit exaggerated, he had no intention of stopping. You see, by the time Chan Xian the Immortal finished his third glass, he had already had nearly 5 glasses. Surprisingly, he showed no signs of being drunk at all. At this point, Chan Xian the Immortal pondered for a moment and cautiously said, "Senior Yi, the chess game you set up on the board just now was quite profound. I wonder if you could offer some guidance." At the sound of this, Chan Qingyi's eyes lit up. "Does Senior Yi also play chess?" To be honest, he is quite obsessed with chess. He has been wanting to find someone to exchange skills with. Chan Xian the Immortal was stunned for a moment. He smiled wryly and said, "I only know a little about it. I dare not show off my meager skills in front of Mr. Yi." Modest? This must be modesty. Hearing him say so, Chan Qingyi was immediately interested. So he finished the wine in his hand, stood up, and invited, "Senior Yi, since that's the case, shall we have the next round?" Chan Xian the Immortal hesitated slightly, with a restrained expression, before nodding with a smile. Then the two of them sat facing each other at the chessboard. "Senior Yi, please make the first move," Chan Xian said. Chan Xian the Immortal nodded without any modesty. Then he placed a black piece on the corner of the board. Chan Qingyi furrowed his brow without leaving a trace. Then he picked up a white piece and placed it next to the adjacent corner. In this way, the two of them continued to make moves. But just as Chan Xian the Immortal placed the ninth piece, his mind and spirit were suddenly sucked into the chessboard. At that moment, the heavens and the earth turned black and white. A terrifying pressure descended upon him overwhelmingly. Chan Xian the Immortal suddenly stopped making moves. Chan Qingyi, who was contemplating his strategy, couldn't help but show a look of doubt. He raised his head gently. But he saw the opponent, pale as if he had seen a ghost, with veins bulging on his forehead and a fierce expression between his brows. What's going on? They've only played 9 moves. How did he suddenly become like Bing Xingyan? Thinking of this, Chan Qingyi couldn't help but shake his head. A trace of disappointment quietly appeared on his face. Is it so difficult just to find someone to play chess with? However, quickly, Chan Xian the Immortal suddenly pulled out his mind and spirit from the chessboard. Then, he couldn't help but gasp for cold air continuously. What kind of chess game is this? It almost made his state of mind collapse. The celestial spirit shattered. Suddenly coming to his senses, he stared at the chessboard inscribed with the words, "Divine Mechanism." This chessboard contains the supremely powerful the 2 ways of yin and yang. Could it be a fake immortal artifact after all? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a strong shock in his mind and spirit. He quickly got up. "It's all my fault for not being proficient in chess. I hope you can forgive me." Chan Qingyi let out a slight sigh, then smiled faintly and nodded. "But I have a chess game here. I hope Mr. Yi can help me solve it." After saying that, Chan Xian the Immortal took out the chessboard with the picture of 4 dragons spitting water from his arms. Chan Qingyi glanced roughly and smiled. "This chess game is not difficult, just that there are many variations for the white pieces, making it a bit difficult for the black pieces to figure out. That's why it's quite clever." At the sound of it, Chan Xian the Immortal's eyes flashed with a hint of brilliance. "Mr. Yi, could you please teach me the way to crack it?" Chan Qingyi smiled lightly. "Back in the old days,